Today I will tell you 7 things that most people overlook when chartering a yacht. This is not about the standard stuff, so no guest count, location, budget, you know, that's the normal stuff people look at when they're looking at a yacht, the length. But these are like 7 things that most people overlook that I, as a yacht charter broker, inform my clients about, because it does really make a difference to your charter experience when you're underwater. Starting with number 1 is the stabilizers. Now you have 2 types of stabilizers. You have the at anchor stabilizer, so that would be if you're in the marina, will your boat be stabilized? And you have the cruising stabilizer, so while you're cruising on the water, you have stabilizers. And what they do, they basically keep the boat stabilized when there's waves coming from either side. They kind of cancel out the waves, so you don't have as much wobbling, you don't get seasick, and thus it's much more enjoyable experience. So I'll just continue the video here, but the second thing that's worth noting is the AC. Now, we never had any issues with this thing particularly, but the AC on a yacht is much like a car. So when you're driving, of course, or when you're cruising, everything works fine. But when you're docking overnight, depending on which yacht you have and if it's modern or a little bit older, it could not run overnight. It could run on a generator overnight, or it could run on the battery overnight. And then there's also the question of for how long, or the whole night through and through. So especially, I know Americans are used to AC all day long, all night long. So if that's something you prefer to have AC always, that's something to check before booking, if the AC runs overnight and whether it's going to be on a generator, which could produce some noise, or whether it will be on the battery, which would be completely silent, and of course the best option. Number 3 is something I do have experience with, and this is why I note it down as one of the things you should look out for, is the bedding layout, because you can have a twin cabin, so that's 2 separate beds, or you can have a double bed in different sizes. You have queen size, king size, of course. So if you have like specific preferences for your cabin layout, it's always good to know like how the double bed is configured and how the twin cabins are configured. For example, we had one client, he really wanted 3 double beds, and this was really at the start. We didn't specify which double bed construction there was, so that there was 1 king bed, 1 queen bed, and then one of the double beds was normally a single bed, but you can pull it out to a second bed. But of course it's not as prestigious as a normal double bed or a queen or king bed. So after that, we always made it standard to really explain the layout and the configuration of the cabins and the bedding situation. If that's something that's important to you, of course, note it down. For us, it's a standard at this point. Then the 4th one is the sound system. Now, different yachts have different sound systems, and some yachts even don't have a sound system, and you would just have a big speaker if you want to play some music. But even with sound system, there's different levels of it. Of course, is it like stereo all over the yacht, or is it just like partial on the off deck, or is it just a speaker? And even if there's a sound system, are you able to connect via Bluetooth, or does the captain control the computer behind it through where the music plays? This can be really important for certain groups, because if you really want to have your own playlist, like easy through Spotify or Apple Music, you want to be able to connect through the Bluetooth to the sound system and just be able to play whatever you want, and not ask the crew or anyone else to do that for you. Even if there's no sound system, that can also be a deal breaker for some people. There's just a big JBL speaker sometimes. This is like on smaller yachts or older yachts. It's worth noting, it's worth looking into, it's worth asking that question, like, is this really important for me? And thus, is it worth checking with your broker what the situation is? Now, the 5th one for me personally is really important, and it's that strong Wi-Fi. Usually if you're on a yacht, you are heavy into business, you have a good job, or you have a business that runs. Even though you're on holiday or vacation, you have to stay connected for some messages, video streaming, Zoom calls, whatever. Could also be in an emergency or anything like that. So the best option would be a Starlink. If Starlink Wi-Fi is available, then you just have the best and quickest connection anywhere you go. It could also be that there's no Wi-Fi available, and then you can always rely on your normal phone plan, so your 4G or 5G connection. But this usually only works when you're close to the coast, you're docked, you're going for a swim stop. But if you're actually going further out on the water and you still want the connection, it's good to check if that's a possibility, if there's Starlink on board, or if there's a Wi-Fi setup. If you'd rather stay completely disconnected, you don't want to get any messages from work or anything like that, maybe you can leave it as it is. Then the sixth one is where you actually will spend most of your time lounging. So whether that be a shaded area, a jacuzzi area, or actually in the sun. Especially if you're on a weekly charter, you will be docking in many different ports, and you will be hanging out on the yacht while in the port, but also, while cruising. And it's worth looking into what would be the main spot where you're sitting. Does it fit with your group? Is it a lounging area? Is it a dinner table? Is there a jacuzzi? Do we want shade? Is there a lot of kids? Then you usually need more shade. But it gets very hot in the summer, so shade is always a overlooked feature. There's also many yachts where it's convertible, so you can have a lounging area that's full in the sun, but then the crew can set up the shaded area, just so you have both options available to you. Now, as the final thing, I would say the water toys. Of course, the water toys is a pretty common thing that you look at because, most people want to have a jet ski, sea bob, e-foil, these type of experiences is what makes the charter, really an experience for everyone on board, especially the kids, but even adults can really enjoy all these water toys. But one thing overlooked in that set is usually the tender. So the tender would be the smaller boat that goes with the bigger boat to bring you to the shore, go to restaurants, seaside restaurants, you name it, going into different marinas quickly. If there's a smaller tender with a bigger group, let's say a group of 12, but there's only a smaller Williams tender, it could be that you have to make 2 or 3 trips to wherever you want to go, a lot of time, all this. So if you're with a bigger group, it's worth looking into having a bigger tender compared to having a smaller tender. So that's it. That's the 7 things that I would look for, really looking for the perfect yacht charter. Of course, if you're interested in chartering a yacht, click the link down in the description, and I'll help you with all of these things to make the perfect yacht that fits for your group. See you around.